The Oscars. Do we love them? Do we hate them? Yes. Yeah, the Oscars are kind of weird. On one hand, they're just kind of this big Hollywood circle jerk that really doesn't mean anything in the long run. On the other hand, it's like the freaking Super Bowl, baby. Let's go. One of my favorite Oscar memories is watching the 2020 Oscars where Parasite just completely swept the house, and I was watching it in a crowded theater of just a bunch of fans going nuts. It was hands down one of the best Oscars I'd ever seen and a very, very cool moment. What happened right after that?
Mysterious new virus.
Coronavirus.
Anyway, the 2024 Oscars are coming up and the nominations just got released earlier this week. So I'm going to be going through the nominee list and giving my picks and predictions on who I think is going to win. I did this last year and I got about 50% of them or so right. So I'm going to see if the Academy is as easy to predict as I believe them to be. So like I said, I'm going to be giving my pick, who I think should actually walk away with the award, and my prediction, who I think will actually end up walking away with it. And of course, I would love to hear what your picks and predictions for this year's Oscars are down in the comments. And one quick preface, I'm not going to be talking about some of the categories that I really don't have a lot of knowledge on, which is mostly the short film categories and the documentary categories. I haven't seen any of those, so I don't really feel like I have the authority to be making any kind of judgments on that matter. But regardless, let's go ahead and start with our first category, which is makeup and hairstyling. And I'm gonna try to have some variety between who I'm going to pick and who I'm predicting, but for some of these categories, I feel like it's just pretty obvious who's going to be walking away with the award. And for makeup and hairstyling, I think I have to go with Poor Things on this. I could see Maestro maybe getting it just because of Bradley Cooper's whole transformation, but I really do think Poor Things is the one that deserves it the most. And so Poor Things is going to be my pick and my prediction. And spoiler, I do have very similar feelings about production design. I also think Poor Things is going to win. I do think this will be a bit of a tighter race compared to hairstyling and makeup, mostly because of Barbie. I think Barbie is the one that's really going to be giving Poor Things a run for its money. And while yeah, Barbie's production design is very, very good, I just found Poor Things production design to be a lot more unique, a lot more interesting. I am almost actually having second thoughts now. I could see Barbie being the one to walk away with it. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna change my mind. I actually had it written down that Poor Things was going to be my pick and prediction. I'm still gonna pick Poor Things, but I think my prediction is actually gonna go to Barbie. For the sound category, this one is a little tricky. I do feel like there are some pretty strong competitors in this category. I think any film that really revolves around music is almost a shoo-in for sound design, and Maestro is one of those movies. But I'm also looking for movies that use sound design to really kind of go hand in hand with the narrative. And I think that's the case for both Oppenheimer and The Zone of Interest. And for me personally, I think my pick and prediction are both going to go to Oppenheimer. Not to spoil too much of my choices going ahead, but I really do see kind of a big sweep for Oppenheimer. Not a complete sweep, but I do see them walking away with a few awards. And if we're going to be talking about anything made by Christopher Nolan, I think the technicals are his strong suit. So yeah, I really do think that Oppenheimer could walk away with it, and that's why it's going to be my pick and my prediction. And now for film editing, I'd like to think I have at least a little bit more insight into this category than the others, mostly just because I was a professional editor for a while. And for my pick, I think the obvious one for me here is going to be Killers of the Flower Moon. Thelma Shoemaker is just one of the best editors working today, and it really shows in Killers of the Flower Moon. You might be saying, well, how could a movie that's 3.5 hours long possibly have great editing? You may be thinking that editing is supposed to kind of like trim the fat and only keep what's necessary. But the fact that this movie is 3.5 hours long and flows so seamlessly is just proof of her talents. This is just a masterclass in very precise and impactful editing, and I really, really do think that Killers of the Flower Moon has some of the best editing I saw this year. And I could see the Academy giving it to them, but this might be another one of those technicals that I see Oppenheimer getting. And to the film's credit, it is edited very, very well. The way Oppenheimer plays with its multiple time periods, multiple different perspectives, and how it uses editing to instill tension into a historical biopic where we pretty much know the turn of events that are going to unfold. I definitely think it's outstanding, and I think most moviegoers are probably going to be able to pick up on that. I think most moviegoers don't usually think about editing, but I think it's used so well here that I actually think that I'm going to predict that Oppenheimer is going to walk away with the editing award. Next up, for costume design, for my pick, I'm going with Poor Things, kind of for the same reason why I picked it for production design. It's just so beautifully weird and off the wall. It really kind of plays with those like old vintage styles and turning it into something that was really, really unique. But however, I do think for my prediction, I'm gonna have to give this one to Barbie. And I think Barbie definitely earns this award. All the different outfits and styles are so ingrained with the character of Barbie that I definitely think it's going to be recognized through this award. Next up is cinematography, which I am also going to be picking Poor Things. You know, Yorgos isn't afraid to get a little weird, and it definitely comes through in the cinematography. There's a lot of uses of fisheye that I didn't think were really going to work for me. I thought maybe it was going to be more of a gimmick, but I think it really does fit the off-the-wall nature of the film. It's a little weird, it's a little off-putting, but I think that just kind of goes along with who Yorgos is as a director and the kind of story he was trying to tell. But for cinematography, I do think I'm going to predict Oppenheimer walking away with this one. And I think it would really deserve it, the way that it captures large scope as well as the more intimate moments. And really, even though like a lot of the film just kind of takes place in small little rooms or just really big expanses of just a lot of dirt and sand and not a lot of color to play with, it really is a testament that this movie looks as good as it does with the kind of setting it's working with, so I definitely think it deserves this award. And now for original song, I can't believe we have to refer to Flamin' Hot as Academy Award nominated film Flamin' Hot. And you know, truth be told, I haven't actually listened to the song from that film, so who knows, it could be a banger. I don't know, just the fact that this movie that just kind of came out and no one cared about is now a Oscar contender, it's just funny to me. But I do think the clear and obvious winner for this award is probably going to be What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish for the Barbie film. Yeah, I'm Just Ken is a bop. I am not going to deny that. But if we're actually talking about a song that's well written, really heartfelt, that really kind of ties into the themes of the movie, it's definitely this song. I think Billie outdid herself with this one, and I could definitely see her walking away with this award. That's why it's going to be my pick and the prediction. And very similar for score, I am going to be giving my pick and prediction to the same film, which is going to be Oppenheimer. Ludwig Göransson, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, I'm very sorry if it's not, is just on another level. He has been churning out these really, really incredible soundtracks for film for the past couple years, and he just really understands how to create music that really ties into a scene that doesn't exactly direct you where your feelings and emotions should go, but supports them and elevates them in a way that's not overbearing, but not exactly super subtle either. It's a phenomenal soundtrack, one that I've actually listened to a couple times. Can You Hear the Music is a phenomenal piece, and I don't think it's too controversial to say that this might have been one of the best scores of the year, and that's why it's gonna be my pick and my prediction. And now for visual effects, I think this one is a little tricky. I was pretty disappointed with the creator in everything but the visuals. I think it's incredible, and especially when you realize just how small of a budget they were working with compared to some of the bigger Hollywood productions. It just makes the visual effects look all the more impressive. But in that same breath, if we're really going to be looking for a great example of low budget, high quality visuals, then you gotta look at Godzilla Minus One. I can't believe this is actually the first Godzilla film to get an Oscar nomination, but I think it does a phenomenal job, not only with Godzilla, but just capturing the scope and the impressive nature of the entire film. From the destruction to all of the battleships out on the water, it's just incredible what they were able to do for a very, very small budget, all things considered. And yeah, I said I was gonna have a little bit of variety with my picks and predictions, but Godzilla Minus One is definitely gonna be my pick, and it might just be my prediction. I could see the creator walking away with this one. I definitely wouldn't be mad. Like I said, those visuals are phenomenal. But you know, Godzilla's been around for a couple decades. I think he kind of deserves an Oscar after all this time. Maybe he can be there to accept it like when Shrek and Donkey did. Original screenplay. This is a very, very tricky one. For me, personally, my pick for my favorite script of last year has got to go to The Holdovers. I just think it's so funny, witty, it's intelligent, but not in a way that really talks down to you. The dialogue is just so whip crack and smart. I love films like that. And so I'm definitely going to be picking The Holdovers, For my prediction, though, this is really, really tough. I think all the scripts for these films are pretty good. Maestro's probably the odd one out here. I really wasn't super crazy about that script. Past Lives is pretty understated, and May December as well. If I didn't pick The Holdovers for my prediction, I think I would have to give it to Anatomy of a Fall. Just because a premise like this really needs a very strong, tight script, and that's exactly what the Anatomy of a Fall script is. It kind of flips the genre on its head, where it's not trying to get to the bottom of the crime, but really have you sit with the people involved with it. It's a very, very smart film, and I guess if I'm going to try to add some variety to my picks and predictions, I'm going to put Anatomy of a Fall for my prediction to walk away with the Oscar for Best Original Script. For Adapted Screenplay, my pick is going to be Poor Things. I just found the story to be very interesting, and Yorgos kind of injecting his deadpan kind of style into it really, really worked for me. For prediction, though, I'm kind of leaning towards American Fiction. American Fiction honestly was kind of a wild card when they announced all of these nominees. It was a film that got good reviews, but it never really had much of a presence at some of the other award ceremonies. But I do think it's a very fun, poignant script, and I could see it walking away with the Oscar, so I'm gonna go ahead and put American Fiction on my prediction side. Animated feature. This one is kind of interesting. And what I mean by that is that I have my pick, I have my prediction. They're both two different films. And even though I'm picking one to win, I actually want my prediction to win. Does this make any sense? This could just be a bunch of BS that I'm spouting, but it makes sense in my head. Basically what I'm saying is my pick is going to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It was definitely my favorite animated movie of last year. It's a ton of fun. However, I do think The Boy and the Heron deserves it a lot more. And yeah, I wasn't super blown away by The Boy and the Heron, but I do have to admit it's one of the most interesting movies to come out of Studio Ghibli in quite a while. And come on, it might be his swan song film, so I do think he should be honored with the Oscar. Basically, if I can try to explain this a little bit better, I really enjoyed Spider-Verse, but The Boy and the Heron is a film that I think I'll be thinking about a little bit more in the coming years compared to Across the Spider-Verse. And I think a lot of other people are feeling that way too, so I'm going to put that as my prediction, The Boy and the Heron. For international film, I think my pick and prediction are both going to go to Zone of Interest. It's just a very harrowing film that has a very unique approach to how it's talking about this very familiar story to film. And you know, truthfully, I haven't seen the rest of these on this list actually, so I'm kind of a little bit more biased towards the Zone of Interest. And honestly, it's just gotten a ton of hype at some of the other award ceremonies, so I could definitely see it walking away with the award. All right, now we're into the big boy categories, first starting with Best Director. And look, I don't care if he's been here for a couple hundred years. I don't care if he has a few Oscars under his belt. Actually, I had to Google it and double check. He's only won for The Departed. So yeah, Martin Scorsese's my pick. He needs another Oscar. I think the work that he does crafting this story and making the characters as intricate and believable as they are is a testament to his incredible skill as a director. Like I spoke on in the editing portion, the narrative just flows so seamlessly, and I love the approach he takes to telling this kind of story, really just kind of being aware of how we digest true crime and how it just kind of erases a lot of suffering. It's a very, very smartly directed film, and I would definitely be very, very happy if he walks away with it. But I'm also kind of feeling like the Academy might lean towards Christopher Nolan for directing here. And you know, I wouldn't be mad if that happened. I definitely think he deserves it. Oppenheimer was a very smartly directed film, both from an acting standpoint and a narrative standpoint. Like I said, I kind of feel like Oppenheimer's gonna be the one to really dominate the night. So yeah, I'm predicting Nolan's gonna walk away with the award, but I really kind of hope Marty can get at least one more Oscar under his belt. For Best Supporting Actress, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn here, but I feel like this one's a pretty much open and shut case. I think it's very obvious it's going to go to Divine Joy Randolph. Her character in The Holdovers is both super funny and super heartaching, and her performance is so genuine and down to earth and emotional, and I think it's really resonated with a lot of people. It's definitely resonated with me, and she's already kind of been cleaning house at some of the other award shows, so I definitely see her walking away with the big one here. For Best Supporting Actor, this is a bit of a tough one. I think for my pick, I just really got to go with with Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon. That guy is just like the devil incarnate in that film. He's so devious, so sinister, but in a way that's not super over the top or cartoony. He's very grounded and real, and I think that's what makes him so terrifying. This is genuinely one of my favorite performances of him in a very, very long time. Absolutely loved him in it, so he's going to be my pick for the Oscar. But I think just from how other people have been talking about it already and how well he's done at some of the other award ceremonies, I do think this is probably going to go to Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, which is completely fine. I loved him as Strauss in that film. It kind of felt like a breath of fresh air for him, because I do think he's been kind of typecast into a very specific type of character for the past couple years, at least since he's walked out of the MCU. A very wisecracking asshole kind of character, basically. And I did really enjoy him in Oppenheimer, and I know a lot of other people did too, and that's why he is going to be my prediction for Best Supporting Actor. For Best Actress, I also kind of feel like this one might be an open and shut case, but I really don't know. Truthfully, all of these performances are very, very good. I could definitely see Emma Stone maybe getting her second Oscar here, but I just think that the performance that everyone is talking about, and the one that's going to be both my pick and prediction, is Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. A lot of people have just kind of written off this performance as subdued, or maybe they're kind of up in arms because she doesn't have as big of a role in the film as some of these other actresses. But the emotional turmoil that she brings to a character like this cannot be understated. She is absolutely incredible. She does kind of get her big emotional moments, but the moments that really stuck with me are some of the smaller, quieter moments where just simple facial expressions or inflections of voice really kind of sell what she's thinking. It's a very tough role to play, especially just because of her and her people's relationship with this terrible tragedy. And she just does a phenomenal job. I definitely think she deserves this, and I think the Academy knows that too. So Lily Gladstone, pick and prediction. Best Actor. This is a bit of a tough one. I feel like Bradley Cooper made Maestro solely so he could get this award, and it's a good performance. I'm not going to deny that. And the same thing can be said with Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction. I haven't seen Coleman Domingo in Rustin, so I can't really speak on that. But if I'm going to be continuing to support my favorite movie of 2023, my pick's going to be Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Love him in this movie. Love him, love him, love him. He is such a fun character. He's just a crotchety old bastard that doesn't really care for these kids, even though he doesn't realize they all kind of have something going on deep underneath. And the way he just kind of opens up and you learn more about him is a lot of fun. Paul Giamatti is one of those actors who I think is long overdue for an award like this, and he's going to be my pick for Best Actor. And I want to say that he'll also be my prediction, but I'm also kind of leaning towards Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. It's one of those performances where he really does transform into this person. I really couldn't see Cillian himself in this role. I only really saw Robert J. Oppenheimer. And I think the way that he expresses that inner turmoil over what he's doing is really, really impressive and couldn't be replicated by just any actor. And I did say Oppenheimer was probably going to clean house a bit, but I think I'm actually gonna go with Paul Giamatti as my prediction. I think a lot of people have recognized how great of a performance it was and how much it makes the movie. So yeah, Paul Giamatti for pick and prediction. Let's hope it happens. And now for the big one, Best Picture. Probably the hardest one to pick out of all of these, honestly. I am happy that Past Lives was able to slip in here. I do think they deserved a little bit more in the other categories. And I mean, these are just incredible films all across the board, and it's really hard to pick one. Actually, no, it's not. My favorite film of last year was The Holdovers, so that is going to be my pick. But I really don't think it's going to be the one that wins, and for some reason, I just keep coming back to Oppenheimer, and I think it's going to win Best Picture. I think just like this year, it was able to do what other films of its ilk weren't able to do for the past couple years. It took a rated R historical biopic that's mostly just people talking and kind of turned it into more or less a cultural phenomenon. I do think you have to be kind of aware of the Barbenheimer effect, but I do think even without the whole Barbenheimer thing, this film still would have been a very, very very well-received film. It's a character dissection, it's a big historical piece, shot super well, the script is super tight, the editing is super influential in just bouncing between those time periods and also setting the tone, and it has one of the absolute strongest ensemble casts I've seen in a while. So even though I would love a nice simple little film like The Holdovers to win, I do think Oppenheimer is everything the Academy is looking for in a film. So that's why I am predicting Oppenheimer is going to be walking away with Best Picture. And that's all the categories. We'll see how well I do, and I would love to see what your picks and predictions are down in the comments. Hopefully we can come back to this video and either crown me or laugh at me for how right or wrong I was. But thank you for watching this video. If you want to hear more discussion about the nominees this year, I'm actually going to be appearing on the A24 On the Rocks podcast. They're a great group of friends who love talking about movies, and next week we are going to be talking about the 2024 Oscar nominations. I don't exactly know when that podcast will actually come out, but if you are following my social media, which you can find down in the links below, you can get all of the updates on that. But once again, thank you again for watching. If you like what you saw here and would like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me across all my social media channels. Like I said, those links are down in the description below. If you enjoy movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, be sure to check out my website, martinishot.blog. Until next time, thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Live deliciously, but please remember to drink responsibly.